Okay, so we're going to be doing an introductory webinar for hands-on equations level 2. If we encounter any technical issues, please stay tuned. Usually they are resolved very quickly. And at the end of the webinar, we will be raffling an individual set of hands-on equations. Now, I'm assuming that all of you have already used hands-on equations. Emily, have you already used hands-on equations level 1? We have a full day Making Algebra Child's Play workshop, which goes into all 3 levels of hands-on equations in more depth than I'm able to do so at the present time. The purpose of hands-on equations, as you know, is to demystify the learning of algebraic concepts. And as you're aware, there are 3 major objectives of the program: to enhance student self-esteem, promote greater student interest in mathematics, and provide a solid foundation for later algebraic work. If you have used hands-on equations, you are aware that the first step in the process is we set up the equation using the game pieces. We solve using legal moves, we clear the scale, and we reset the scale to conduct the check. So let me illustrate with the interactive application. It'll be simpler to do it that way. So first of all, what I want to do is go back to lesson 3 just to make sure we're together. So we have 4x's plus 2. The x's are represented by blue pawns. So this is 4x plus 2. 2 is a constant, so we use a number cube. Is equal to 3x's plus 9. So we use 3 pawns and a 9 cube. Now, at this point, what's the procedure that we use to solve the equation? We use legal moves. So what we could do is, for example, we could remove a blue pawn from each side, and that maintains the balance. And we could do that 2 more times. Okay, so now the equation is still balanced, but since this has a weight of 9 and this side has a weight of 2, that means that the pawn x must have a value of 7. And to do the check, we reset the original problem 1 more time. And now if each x is 7 and you count along, you will see that on this side we have 7, 14, 21, 28, and 2 is 30. And on this side we have 7, 14, 21, and 9 is 30. So both sides have the same value. So Emily, does that make sense to you? Please text chat if that makes sense. Also, what I'm going to do now is unmute everyone, and let's see. Okay. All right, so people are unmuted so they can speak, but at this point, I'm not sure if everybody can hear me. So right now, I want to jump to level 2, because that's our objective for today. So in level 2, we begin working with the white pawn, and the white pawn has the name of star, and stars are white, like the stars in the sky. So for example, if we have a problem such as 2 star is equal to 8, then each of the stars is going to be worth 4. So star, or the white pawn, is simply another unknown. So let's try this example. We need to set up 3 star plus 1 twice. So let me set up 3 stars plus 1. Okay, so this is now lesson 8. So the student set up what's inside the parentheses first, and then the 2 tells us to double what we already have. So I need to set up another 3 stars plus 1. And on the right side, I have 2 star plus 10. So I have 2 white pawns and 10. So the only thing new in excuse me here, I have to find my mouse. 1 second. So the only thing new in lesson number 8 is that we're using the white pawn instead of the blue pawn because we're using star. At this point, we could do legal moves. I could take away 2 white pawns from each side. I can also take away 2 constant from each side. So this 10 becomes an 8. And now I have 4 white pawns or 8. So each white pawn is going to have the value of 4. So notice that the white pawn does not have to be negative. It could be positive or negative. It's just simply another unknown. Okay, so you can see right away that that is not correct, right? 4 white pawns are 8, so each white pawn will be equal to 2. To do the check, the students reset the original problem one more time. Okay, so let's try doing that. Okay, so we have 3 star plus 1 twice on the left side. And on the right side, we have 2 star plus 10. And now, if each star is 2, I have 6 and 1 is 7, double is 14, 2 and 2 is 4, and 10 is 14. Okay, so both sides have the value of 14. Okay, so that's the idea with lesson number 8. The only new thing here is that we're working with the white pawn instead of the blue pawn. Okay, if the rest of you could hear me, please text chat hello, okay? Okay, now what I'd like to do is go on to number 9. And what I'm doing now is using the interactive application for the whiteboard or the smart board, just makes it more convenient to do that. Good, Amy, I'm glad you could hear. Thank you. So star, in lesson 9, the students learned that there's a relationship between x and star. Namely, star is the opposite of x. So if x means that I find $5, then star means that I lose $5. And if x means that I lose $3, star means that I find. So notice that star can be positive or negative. So if x and star are positive, hence if x is positive 5, star will be a negative 5. And if x is a negative 3, star will be a positive 3. So we need to keep in mind that star can be positive or negative, depending on the problem. So if x is 5, star will be a negative 5. And if x is a negative 5, star will be equal to 5. Okay, so here it's 5, and here it's a negative 5. Okay, so in lesson 9, the students learned to evaluate expressions. Okay, that's normally a 6th grade standard, but the students can start to do that using these materials. So an expression is different from an equation because, as you see, it has no equal sign. So we need to evaluate. The way we evaluate an expression is we set it up on one side of the balance scale. So I have 2 x's here, so let me set that up. 1x, 2x. Then it says to add a star. I need to add a star. Then it says to add another x. And then it says to add another star. and to add a 5 constant. Now, before we do anything, let's just see if we have it set up correctly. 2x's plus star plus x plus star is 5. Okay, now, since x is the opposite of star, that means that a blue and a white point together are 0, right? If you find $5 and lose $5, the value is 0. So therefore, if x is 2, 2 and 5 is 7. So the answer to this problem is going to be 7. Okay, Amy, does that make sense? Amy, Emily, does that make sense? That the answer is 7. 2 and 5 is 7 because the pair of opposites are disappear. Okay, good. I think we'll try one more of lesson 9. If star is equal to 4, we need to evaluate this expression. So so let me put it over here. So I have 3 stars plus an x. Now, if you read this as minus, it becomes problematic. So it's best to read this as an operation. Now it says to subtract the star. So therefore, let's just get rid of that plus 1. Okay, so this is the setup of the problem. 3 star take away star are 2 stars plus x plus 1. These are opposites. So star is 4 and x is 1. The answer is going to be 5. Okay, so that's very similar to the first problem we did. So now let me go on to lesson 10. Okay, so in lesson 10, Amy, tell me how to set this up, please. What do I set up on the left side? Tell me what to set up. I'm going to set up 3 blue pawns and a white pawn. And on the right side, I'm going to set up an X and a 4. Now notice we need to find X star and the check. So as you gather, the simplest thing to do is to realize that these are a pair of opposites. So you can either ignore them, or if you want to, you could just delete them. And now you could do a regular legal move from here. And so we see that X has a value of 4. Now, if we know that X is 4, star will be its opposite. So therefore, star will be equal to a -4. Okay, I'm going to mute the webinar so we don't have any distractions. Okay. Okay, so to do the check, we're going to set up the original problem one more time. We have 3 stars plus x. 3 x's plus star is equal to x plus 4. And doing the check, we don't have to actually do anything here since this is worth 0. So 4 and 4 is 8. So for the check, we have 8 on the left side, and 4 and 4 is 8 on the right side. Okay, so the only new concept in lesson 10 is that we use the idea that a blue and a white pawn together are worth 0. So this then becomes a new legal move. We can always remove a pair of opposites from one side of the equation. And once you know X, star is the opposite. Okay. Do we have a question here? Does this seem to be okay? If the rest of you can hear me, please text chat hello so I know we can hear you. Okay, so now we want to go to lesson 11. So lesson 11 is really very interesting because, well, let's see why. 2x equal to star plus 6. Okay, First of all, is it legal? Give me a yes or no answer. Would this be a legal move? Okay, I'll wait for your response. Is that legal? Okay, I see one no, I see two no's. Okay, that would not be legal because they're not worth the same thing. Okay, so that would not be a legal move. So therefore, in lesson 11, students need to come up with a new legal move. The move we had previously was called the subtraction property of equality, when you subtract the same value from each side. We need a new legal move here. Could someone suggest a new legal move? Essentially, what we have the sixth constant here. What we want to do is remove this white pawn. I need a legal way of doing that, and we don't want to tell our students this, right? I hope you understand that. We don't want to tell our students, boys and girls, as this white pawn travels through space, and as it reaches this side, becomes a blue pawn. We don't want to do that, right? The whole purpose of hands-on equations is to have it make sense to students. Okay, so there are two approaches that are being suggested. Very good. So Emily's approach is lesson 11, and Amy's approach is lesson 12. So in lesson 11, we use the addition property of equality. That is, we may always add the same value to both sides of a balanced system. We haven't changed the value, and now we have a pair of opposites that we can remove. And therefore, if 3 x's are 6, each x is 2, and that makes star be a -2. Now let's do the check to see if it works out. We set up the original problem. If x is 2, 2 and 2 is 4. So the left side is 4. What happened to the 4? It's not staying there. Okay, for some reason, I have to do it this way. Okay, now, you may think that the students need to know how to add positive and negative numbers to do hands-on equations level 2, but they don't. Intuitively, they'll find the answer here. If star is a -2, negative means a loss of 2. So 6 lose 2 is 4. Okay, so both sides have the value of 4. So that then is lesson 11. The new concept in lesson 11 is that we may add the same value to both sides of the equation. Okay. So I think at this point, rather than giving you another practice example, let me instead go on to the second approach, which is really lesson 12, but I'll show it to you now. The second approach is that since a blue and a white pawn together are worth 0, okay, since a blue and white pawn together are worth 0, we can always add a pair of opposites to one side of the equation without changing its value. This is called the additive property of 0. Okay, if you have something and you add 0, the value stays the same. But once you add that 0, then you're in a position to remove a white pawn to each side. Okay, so I'm going to do that again, okay? Let's do that one more time. Our goal is to isolate the 6 cube. The white pawn is in the way. The second approach we're learning for removing the white pawn is to add a pair of opposites to the other side. If we add a pair of opposites to the other side, we have not changed the value of that side, but now we can remove a white point. Okay, so those are the two approaches that we are using here. Okay, so Amy, Emily, the rest of you, are you okay with these two approaches? One is the addition property of equality, and the other is the addition property of zero. Okay, so now we're going to move on to, now of course in the classroom, you can demonstrate the equations, but then the students have the worksheet where they have 4 examples on the new lesson and 6 examples on the prior work. So I think we're up to lesson 13. Okay, so the question here is, now remember, what we're using here is the hands-on equations for the interactive whiteboard or for the smartboard. By inspection, can you tell below what the value of this white pawn is? The right side is a 0, 10 and 2 is 12. Please text chat, how much is the white pawn? Can you tell by inspection what it must be? Is it a positive number or a negative number, and what number is it? Well, the 12 is positive, and this is a 0, so the 3 white pawns must have a negative value. Okay, so I see one answer. Since a red 12 is a positive 12, the 3 white pawns must be a negative 12, so each one is a negative 4. 12, 8, 4, 0. Okay? So what this shows you is that if you set up the equation, if you move the pieces and you end up with a 0 value on one side, we can still solve the problem. So let's look at this example from lesson 13. So I have 2x plus star plus 3. And on the right side, I have 2 star plus 15. Now, what's interesting with all of these problems is that the student does not have to memorize a procedure for solving the equation. The student may do any legal moves he or she would like to perform. So, can I have a suggestion from the participants? What legal move would you like to perform first, please? Okay, I'll give you a few seconds. A suggestion for a legal move. Okay, so let's work with the cubes first. We're going to take away 3 value from this side, and this 15 becomes a 12. Now, our goal is to isolate the number cubed. So these 2 white pawns are in the way. Okay, another suggestion for another legal move, please. So far, we've taken a 3 constant from both sides. Remove the white pawn from each side. Okay. Okay, so I can remove a white pawn. When the students do this at their seats, we encourage them to use both hands simultaneously. They could keep track. And now we have this white pawn in the way. And in the prior lesson, we learned 2 ways to remove this white pawn. We learned 2 ways to remove the white pawn. So let's say we're going to add a blue pawn to each side. I think there are 2 here. Okay, and now this is a 0 value, so I can remove it. So if 3 x's are 12, we see that x is going to be 4. We see that star is going to be negative 4. But of course, we don't know if we're right or not until we do the check. Okay, so let's do the check. So you have 2x plus star plus 3 is equal to 2 stars plus 15. Okay, x is 4. So let's see what happens. I have 4, 8, 4, 7. So the left side is 7. Okay, so the left side is 7. Okay, now star is a -4. As we mentioned before, it's much easier. You could do -4, -8 to 7. And you know, and I'm working with a student now who won't have trouble doing that. But normally speaking, the students will begin to 15, lose 4, and they'll get 7 = 7. So the only concept here in lesson 13 is we recommend working with the cubes first, and then that way you know what you need to remove. So right now I want to get to lesson 14, which is the most sophisticated concept of level 2. Okay. Okay. So we need to set up this equation. So here we have 2 x's. Now, if you read this as minus star, it could cause the brain could have trouble because minus has 3 different meanings actually. So why don't we read this as subtraction? This has from 2x subtract a star. Well, a star is a white pawn. The only problem is we don't have any white pawns here. So would someone be creative, please? How can I subtract a white pawn from this side when I don't have one? Who can suggest a procedure for subtracting a white pawn when we don't have one? Right? We need to take away a white pawn from here. I can't simply put it on. It doesn't say to add a white pawn. It says to take away a white pawn. Suggestion? Add a 0 value to the left side. Okay. Okay. Looks like we're together here. So we call this adding a pair of opposites or adding a convenient 0. We haven't changed the value of the left side. The left side is still worth 2x because this is 0. However, now we're in a position to take away a star. And on the other side, we have a 10 and a 2. So we see then that 3 x's are equal to 12. So that means that x will be 4, star will be -4. Now, in order to do the check, whoops, I also erased my values. Okay, x is 4 and star is -4. In order to do the check, we have to go back to the original physical setup. So you have 2 x's. We need to subtract a star, but we don't have one. So we're going to add a pair of opposites, which is worth 0. Now I can take away my star. And on the other side, I have 12. So this is where we would do the check. We always do the check in the original physical setup. So the check value then will be 12 is equal to 12. Okay, so the check does work out. Okay, do we think we're together on this? Okay, if so, we now have a challenging problem here, okay? This may be the most difficult, I don't know if difficult, the most challenging question of level 2. If students have progressed step by step, they'll be able to do it. Otherwise, they may not. So I'm going to need your help here. I'll do the hard part. I'll set up the x. Of course, that's not the hard part. That's the easy part. Okay, now I need to take away 3 white pawns. The only problem is I don't see any white pawns here. Suggestion, please. I need to take away 3 white pawns from the left side. Do we have a suggestion? Add 3 0 pairs, 3 pairs of opposites. Add 3 convenient zeros. Okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to add 1 pair of opposites here. We're going to add another pair of opposites here. I don't know why I'm getting 2 of these at one time, so. And we're going to add a 3rd pair of opposites. What is the total value of the pieces on the left side of the scale? The total value is just x, because I've only added zeros. But now I can take away 3 white pawns. 1, 2, 3. So notice something very interesting. The net result of subtracting 3 stars is to add 3 blue pawns. And after a while, student will skip this middle step. When it says take away 3 white pawns, they'll know to add 3 blue pawns. They will have learned intuitively that subtracting something is the same thing as adding its opposite. Okay. Plus 2. Now on the right side, I have to begin with an 8. And I need to take away 2 x's, but I don't have 2 x's. So I need a suggestion. What can I do since I don't have 2 x's? Well, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to add 2 pairs of opposites. And now we could take away 2 x's. Remember, the x's are the blue pawns. Okay, so therefore, this is the original setup. Let's just check it. X take away 3 star plus 2, 8 take away 2x. So now, of course, we can take away 2 value from here. This 8 becomes a 6. And from here, you could do legal moves, or I was working today with a student who solved it mentally from here. The student realized that if each x is 1, this is 4, and star would be -1, and this side would be 4. So the student that I worked with today just did this mentally. Okay? If each x is 1, this side is 4, and this side is 4 because star is -1. But of course, you can add 2 blue pawns to each side. Okay, I assume that many students, or most students, will need to do that. And then they'll see that each x is 1, and each star will be -1. Okay. And then to do the check, they would set up the original problem one more time. Okay, if you recall, the original setup looks like this. Okay, in other words, after adding the pair of opposites and removing them, this is the original setup. And in order to do the check, if x is 1, this side is, oh, sorry, both sides have the value of 6. Okay, so that would be the answer. Now, I am recording this, so hopefully the recording will work out. So you'll be able to review this if I did it a little fast for you. But since our time is short, I'm going to try to move on to lesson 15. Now, the only new thing in lesson 15 is that we're using more traditional notation, the opposite of x instead of star. Notice that what we're doing is we're taking out the cross bar in star and putting it next to it. So I'll do the setup. I won't solve it because the solution will be the same as before. So this says 2x plus the opposite of star plus 3. And here's twice the opposite of x plus 15. Okay, so the important thing here is to agree with the setup. 2x. Now, some students may rewrite the opposite of x as star, and they'll rewrite this underneath 2x plus star plus 3. But you don't have to do that. And now we could just solve as we did before. And when you solve it, you're going to get the value for x. And instead of star, you get the value of the opposite of x. I don't know if we could do this. Okay, I'm not sure I want to solve this right now. Okay, so what I want to do now lesson 15, lesson 16. Okay, I want to get to the pictorial notation. So what I want to do is illustrate that for you here. Okay, give me a second. Okay, 1 second, and I'll be setting this up. Okay, so I'd like to show you the pictorial notation that students learn. So basically speaking, they draw a horizontal line like this to represent the scale. The X's are shaded triangles. The white point is an open triangle. In the pictorial, we don't use plus signs because the plus sign is an abstract symbol. And then we put a 6 here. Okay, now to solve it, we can add a blue, well, you can add, let's add a pair of opposites to one side, just to get practice with that. I'm going to add a blue pawn and a white pawn here. Now I can eliminate the white pawn from each side. And I have 1, 2, 3 X's are 6, so therefore X is 2. And star is -2. Twice 2 is 4. 6 take away 2 is 4. Or you could also do the check by redrawing the original problem. Two and 2 is 4. 6 lose 2 is 4. So the check is 4 is equal to 4. Okay, so okay, are you all able to see my pictorial notation? I assume you are, yes? Okay, good. Okay, let's try one more pictorial, and then we will begin to wrap up the webinar, and I want to do the raffle. Okay, so 3 stars plus X plus 2 equal to 2X Okay, so at this point, there are many things we could do. So why don't we work with the cubes first? I'm going to get rid of that 2 and that 4, and this becomes a 2. And now I can eliminate this blue pawn. Now, if you're doing it, you would be doing it your own way because there are many ways of doing this. Now, notice what I'm going to do. In order for me not to get confused, I'm going to redraw what's left. It looks like we have 3 white pawns here. It looks like that's gone. And here it looks like we still have a blue pawn and a 12. Okay, I wrote the 12 inside one cube. So now I can add a blue. I know I'm doing this quickly. A blue and a white here. I can eliminate the blue. And it looks like 4 whites are 12. So that means that white is equal to 3. But another name for white is star. So tar is 3 and X is, okay, so unless I made a mistake, that looks like the pictorial solution. And we could check it abstractly. If star is 3, 3 times 3 is 9. Take away 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So the left side of the equation is 8. 14 take away 6 is 8. Okay, so that would be the pictorial solution. And the last thing I'd like to do today before we wrap up the webinar is to show you that after a while the students can do all of this mentally. For example, if you have 3 stars and you add an X, that's going to be, wait up, did I do something wrong here? Let me see, 3 star plus X plus 2. Oh, that's okay. If you have 3 stars and you add an X, that's going to be 2 stars. I'm going to take away 2 from that side. So 2 star is equal to 2x plus 12. I'm now mentally going to add 2 star to each side. So I have 4 star is equal to 12, or star equals to 3, and x is -3. Okay, I'm just showing you that you are able to have the students transferred to a mental solution. So at this point, what I'd like to do is wrap up the webinar. So first of all, let me get some quick feedback from you. Have you enjoyed the workshop? Did you value the presentation? Let me hear some feedback, please. Regarding the question, I'm not sure which triangle you're referring to note to add the clear triangle on the left. Let me see if I can figure out which problem that was. I think I added a blue triangle and a white triangle. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't have the problem in front of me, so I can't respond to that. Okay, very good. Okay, good. But we'll have a recording so you'll be able to check it. So at this point, we're going to have a raffle. There were 20 people signed up. I selected a number from 1 to 15. The person who selects the number, or the one closest to it, will be the winner of this hands-on equations learning system. So right now, would all of you please enter a number from 1 to 20? Okay, so it looks like we have a winner. It looks like we have a winner. Let me reveal the hidden number and see what we have here. If we reveal the hidden number, it looks like we have 15. It looks like Emily Myers hit it right on the head. Okay, Emily, so be in touch with the office. Okay, they'll be in touch with you, but also be in touch with us. info@borenson.com. Okay. And thank you all so much for your participation. And we will send you a copy of the webinar. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.